you trying to coddle him for? Let the man walk off, have some time to himself, sit down, soak it up, and come up with what he need to do.
T.I.'s son, King Harris, has been arrested after not appearing in court and some other things connected to his...
Celebrity scandals have taken wild turns before, but rarely do they hit this brutally. Tonight, the spotlight is on King Harris, who is lying in intensive care, battered and fighting for his life after what insiders are calling a savage prison attack. The details coming out of Georgia's prison system sound more like a gangland movie than reality. Reports say King was jumped in his block, beaten until he was barely conscious. Guards dragged him away as chaos erupted, forcing an emergency lockdown. Witnesses claim he was rushed under armed guard to the infirmary, face swollen, body limp, while staff scrambled to control a full-blown brawl that left several inmates hurt. And according to whispers, this was no random scuffle. This was a setup, a deliberate ambush. Some say it was punishment for his constant flexing about money and privilege, while others believe it was a warning that behind bars, fame means nothing and the weak get eaten alive.
Yeah, so him being arrested isn't really like the shocker, it's him coming out and his, I guess, reaction to it, right? Because everybody's saying, King, you grew up privileged, bro. Why are you going down this path? Now he's talking about F the police, F12. So, you know,
The news spread like wildfire online. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok blew up with reactions. Some fans showed shock and sympathy, while others mocked him, saying King had finally faced the real world and folded. Meanwhile, the Harris household went into full crisis mode as whispers grew that this might not be the last attempt on King's life. Rumors pointed to long brewing beefs with inmates. One insider claimed King had been marked weeks ago for humiliation, not by chance, but on purpose. Another source tied to prison staff said King was already hated inside, resented for his last name and his loud attempts to act like he ran the yard. Inmates warned him to tone it down, but he would not listen. Their words turned into violence. T.I.'s reaction? Pure desperation. Sources say he has not slept since the attack, burning through phone lines to lawyers, politicians, and anyone who might pull strings inside Georgia's Department of Corrections. One Atlanta source swears Tip is ready to pay any price, make any promise, even sign NDAs, just to get King out alive. The man who once crowned himself King of the South is now begging behind the scenes. Tiny, on the other hand, has reportedly turned her home into a war room, rallying lawyers, PR reps, and allies. But insiders say the couple's famous united front is cracking. Explosive arguments are erupting between them, each pointing fingers over how their son landed in this nightmare. Friends close to the family are not even sure anymore if they are fighting to save King or just fighting each other as his life hangs by a thread.
I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for Family Hustle. Right. And it does come with some, you know, it's some adversity. It's some adversity to come with that. People get in your business.
Yeah. But here's where things get even murkier. Whispers are spreading fast that this attack wasn't about some petty disrespect or random beef. Rumor has it there was a failed contraband deal inside the facility, and King may have either refused to play ball or, worse, tried to finesse the wrong crew. In a place where loyalty is currency, that kind of move can get you marked. So what really happened? Was this just a heated disagreement that spiraled out of control? Or was King Harris deliberately targeted by inmates who felt betrayed? Sources tied to the investigation claim there's evidence he was set up. According to them, King was lured to a specific corner of the prison where at least 3 men jumped him, all while surveillance cameras mysteriously went dark. The Department of Corrections denies any glitch, but insiders aren't buying it. As one of T.I.'s former road managers put it, it's Georgia. Cameras break when they need to break. That's all you need to know. Meanwhile, King's condition is still unstable, and family tensions are boiling over publicly. We've seen the Harris clan close ranks before, but never like this. Fans haven't forgotten the explosive headlock moment at that Falcons game, when T.I. put King in a chokehold live on Instagram after yet another bitter argument about his upbringing. "You are embarrassing yourself and your family," Tip told him, as security scrambled and Tiny tried to calm things down. At the time, many thought that was King's rock bottom, but this prison ambush makes it clear things can go even lower. Now, with King lying on a hospital bed and the Harris family's dirty laundry blowing across the internet like wildfire, it's becoming clear that infamous Falcons game fight was just the dress rehearsal for something far uglier. The stakes are no longer about family pride, they're about survival.
I graduated. That's the only good thing they posted of me going viral. I'm not on the media's good side. I don't know why, but it ain't.
Inside the prison, King's environment was never secure, but recently it grew downright hostile. Multiple insiders say he was taunted relentlessly about his parents' scandals, especially the shadow of those trafficking allegations still haunting T.I. and Tiny, and by extension, King himself. Making it worse, King reportedly fueled the fire by flexing behind bars, posting for social media and calling out rivals like he was still running a show. Older inmates were not impressed. "This is not a reality series," one former prisoner told us. "We don't care who your daddy is. If you run your mouth or don't pay what you owe, you get handled." And now, King is learning that lesson the hardest way possible. On the outside, T.I. is using every card he has left. Sources say he is threatening to blast prison conditions publicly while quietly planting sympathetic coverage through media connections. The goal: flip the story, frame King as a victim, and paint the system as the real villain. It is the oldest trick in the celebrity crisis playbook. But the question hanging over all of this: has the damage already been done? Beneath all the PR spins and legal maneuvers, one cold reality lingers. Maybe this is exactly what happens when you raise a son to believe he is untouchable, until the world finally hits back harder than anyone imagined.
Steve Sadar reached out to me looking to make a deal on behalf of T.I. and Tiny. And I told Steve Sadar that my clients want justice. So if the deal involves Tiny and T.I. turning themselves in and admitting to the crime that they've committed, then fine, we got a deal. But if it does not, then I would prefer to have the investigators do their work and to bring criminal charges against Tiny and T.I.
Adding fuel to the chaos are whispers from industry veterans who claim the Harris family's long legal shadow may have painted a bigger target on King's back. His name has been dragged more than once into those unresolved trafficking allegations. Accusations first erupted years ago and never completely faded. Some accusers have suggested a tangled chain of misconduct tied directly to the Harris household. Sabrina Peterson, the ex-friend who lit the spark, even threatened to unleash damaging evidence that would allegedly pull not only T.I. and Tiny but King himself into deeper legal trouble. Federal prosecutors never pressed charges, but in the public eye, that stain never washes away. And while the family's lawyers are scrambling to kill one scandal, another rumor catches fire. Word spreads about a secret deal that went sideways. King's name allegedly linked to a contraband ledger, an unpaid debt, or worse, an accusation of snitching. Is it just prison gossip or the real story? Insiders insist that in that world, crossing the wrong man always gets settled in blood. Add to that King's privileged background, his reality TV upbringing, and the Harris family's non-stop magnet for controversy, and it becomes clear why he has become a lightning rod for every grudge on the block.
So the dynamics here are interesting, but I can't judge how the parenting has gone, because everything that we've seen has been stuff that many of us would have said or similar if we saw our children do this. But I will say this. A lot of what's happening is because it's in the public. Like most children don't have to do this in the public.
At the same time, T.I. and Tiny's marriage is unraveling under the weight of crisis. Behind closed doors, the tension is boiling over. Tiny reportedly pushes for compassion, insisting their son is more a victim of the system than the cause of it. T.I., however, is described as furious, convinced King needs a hard reset, not excuses. He has thrown himself into aggressive maneuvering, leaning on contacts and calling in favors, determined to strong-arm a solution. But those close to the couple say this is the worst storm they have ever weathered together. Worse than the lawsuits, worse than the show cancellations, and even worse than the embarrassment of that viral Falcons game incident. This is not just about headlines anymore, it is about their family's survival. The emotional strain is shattering, with shouting matches spilling over while the rest of the Harris family gets caught in the fallout. Looking at the bigger picture, the stakes could not be more severe. King, once the unpredictable wildcard of the dynasty, now faces the fight of his life. And with every breaking update, the question only grows heavier: is there a redemption arc waiting, or are we watching the collapse of one of hip-hop's most famous families? And hauntingly, insiders warn the darkest truths of this ambush have not even surfaced yet.
And you can, you know what I'm saying, kind of woo-saw yourself outside of the public opinion.
Piece by piece, we are watching the illusion of celebrity protection get stripped away inside prison walls. Wealth, fame, and even the Harris name mean nothing when survival runs on its own brutal code. And those rules are simple: loyalty counts, respect is earned, and weakness is punished without hesitation. For King Harris, those rules are now being carved into him the hard way. In that world, fame is not armor, it is a target. Where ordinary inmates keep their heads down, high-profile names like King live under a brighter spotlight and carry heavier risks. Survival depends on silence, alliances, and respect, not Instagram clout or family legacy. And that cruel reality may have been his downfall from the start. The same notoriety that lifted him outside is now the very weapon being used against him inside. That chilling twist lingers over every update. Was King's fame the blade that cut him down? For the Harris family, that possibility is harder to face than the injuries themselves.
I really admire his dedication and commitment to the craft. Because, I kind of told him, what was wrong about it. Making mistakes. I ain't had no daddy who'll pull up and get on my ass anytime. Things I did, you can't get away with.
I know that.
Man, damn. Yeah, that's I ain't see that one coming. You know
Really?
what I mean? Nah, I didn't.
Those close to the situation stressed that this was never just about King as an individual. From the moment he stepped inside, he carried more than his own name. He dragged in the Harris legacy, the reality TV baggage, the scandals, and the notorious image of being T.I.'s wildest son. To men serving decades, that kind of reputation was not a shield, it was bait. A lightning rod for envy, resentment, and long-settled scores. Multiple correctional officers have even admitted privately that inmates like King often become bargaining chips in the shadow wars between rival groups. In their eyes, he was less a person and more a pawn. One man who once served time in Georgia's system put it plainly: they see someone with headlines, and they want to make an example of him, to warn others inside, and to prove a point to the world outside. Pile on the rumors of a broken contraband deal and the never-ending swirl of Harris family scandals, and it becomes clear King was surrounded by sharks from the very beginning. But survival in prison is not just about fists or knives. The psychological warfare is just as ruthless. A glare, a rumor, a single word can serve as either a warning or the first domino in another ambush. Reports suggest that King's privileged life painted a target on him before he ever set foot in a cell. Many inmates looked at him and saw someone who had never suffered, someone born into private schools, music videos, and a safety net of expensive lawyers that most could never dream of. Others mocked his attempts to posture like a gangster, convinced that deep down he was more reality TV than real street. While King fights to survive inside, lawyers are scrambling outside, trying to bend the narrative in his favor. The family, though, is bitterly divided. Some warn that pushing harder will only raise the risk of another attack, while others argue that silence will destroy the Harris brand, making them look weak in the middle of a public storm. In the middle of it all, the rest of the Harris children are being dragged into speculation about everything from old paternity rumors to unresolved family feuds. The gap between private heartbreak and public spectacle grows thinner with every leak, whether it comes from a guard whispering in secret or a so-called friend speaking to the media. As the dust settles, one chilling truth becomes unavoidable. King's near-death moment proves that the justice system bends for no one. It chews up inmates the same way, whether they are famous or forgotten. Money, fame, and hip-hop royalty mean nothing behind those walls. Inside, the only currency that matters is power. What began as a scuffle over respect has spiraled into a brutal war for survival, not just for King Harris, but for the entire Harris dynasty. And while T.I. pulls every string he can find, trying to outmaneuver a system that has swallowed countless lives, it feels more like the beginning than the end. King is still clinging to life, and with each new headline, the sense grows that this was not just a one-off attack. It might be the prologue to a darker saga waiting to unfold. Which raises the question, is King Harris just another casualty of his family's fame, or is there a deeper, more dangerous truth hiding behind this chaos? Could this ambush be the doorway to secrets and rivalries so explosive that no lawyer, no publicist, and no spin can ever bury them? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because with the Harris family, the storm is never far behind. Stay sharp, stay curious, and until next time, keep your eyes open. The next chapter could break at any moment.